Today we're going to be reviewing Architectural Digest's newest home tour with Walton Goggins. I don't know if you have seen White Lotus yet. I'm not going to ruin it, and I know it's going to spark some debate in the comments because the season finale was absolutely wild. It was so dark and twisted. I guess that's kind of what you expect from White Lotus, but let's see how Walton Goggins lives.
Hello, AD. What are you doing here? Just kidding. Welcome to our home. This is the gun room. I should contextualize this experience for you. The house was built in 1924. The gentleman who owned it had 3,000 acres around here. We have 125. It was built in the design of a Scottish hunting lodge. I personally have never been to a Scottish hunting lodge, so I'm gonna have to take your word for it. This was the gun room and where they would store all of their guns and go on a hunt. They had a pheasant farm here and a number of other things.
All right, so we're starting with the gun room. I don't know if this is the actual foyer or the complete layout of how you enter this house, but this is a really interesting way and also approach of how to start Architectural Digest. We're starting literally in what he calls the gun room. The best way I could describe this is really giving that like Scottish hunting lodge, which is really unique. I'm not a huge fan of all this raw barn wood all the way throughout. It comes off much more rustic than that kind of added charm that you would typically want from this kind of barn board house. It almost has this 20s kind of Prohibition era to it, which is really unique because not many people that would purchase a period home would keep that many details to it. I think those gun butts that were installed in the actual shelving units were a really unique feature. I would have actually wanted to highlight them more. So what I would have done is I would have removed that bottom step piece of it and actually mounted them horizontally so you can actually see them behind the bookshelf instead of covering them up. The one thing that I would have preferred to see, even though it's usually not my design choice, is some form of taxidermy in this area outside of the small little horns that they have on the wall. I feel like that just suits the entire vibe when you first come in.
Check this out. You know what this is? This is a Prohibition Bar. Now we have the original blueprints of the house, right? So we know that this room was called a linen closet, but it ain't a linen closet. This is where I get to do my thing. This is the signatures of some of the people that signed the wall. In keeping with tradition with what they did in this bar, I have asked a number of my friends to begin signing this wall because socializing and having friends over and talking is very, very important to me and my family.
I think the signatures on the wall in this like linen closet is such a fantastic idea and really carrying on the heritage that this existing building has. The one point that I would have loved to see is that since he mentioned he's lost a few signatures when they restained that wood, what I would have done is I would have loved to carve out some of those panels with the names written on them so I can keep them in their original state and even frame them as part of it. He's got some huge names that visited this house during the Prohibition era or even afterwards that had signatures on the walls. I would have loved to highlight that. The room itself is pretty plain. I do like the hidden bifold doors as you go in. That, of course, is the existing design and a cute little touch to that Prohibition era. It does come off quite flat and plain with all of that barnwood completely surrounding it, as well as the bar area itself. I would have wanted to zhuzh it up a little bit. I probably would have put some unlacquered brass shelves just to add to that aged and patinaed look, but also give it more dimension in the room. I do appreciate that he does have art in it, but I feel like something hanging mounted on the ceiling to give it that extra level of depth would also complete the space instead of just having wood everywhere. I would have wanted to bring some aged wall sconces in there to also really accentuate the height since it is a very confined space. Having a few vintage wall sconces in this space would have really amplified that look where you open those doors, it's like a sprung of the moment. Like this is the feature when those doors open instead of just having the same finishes throughout. Walton Goggins is objectively a beautiful man and we actually share the same hairline. I recently got a hair transplant, so mine's coming down a little bit further, but you know what? He makes it work. There's something about celebrity skin that just always looks good, and I'm sure it's not just the makeup. You actually have to have good skincare, and red light therapy I'm sure is a part of the secret weapon that a lot of celebrities use because I definitely use it myself. I mean, I wish I was a celebrity, but we're not there yet. We'll just say I have fans. Or no, we have good viewers. But you know what? Here we are. I've been using the Omnilux red light therapy mask for the last month and a half now, and let me tell you the difference that I've seen in my skin. I talked to you last time about the reduction of redness. I have some pretty bad rosacea, and if I get a flare up, it goes completely red. But the most important thing that I've really noticed is the evenness of my skin tone. What's great about the Omnilux men's mask is that it actually has a higher penetration rate compared to their contour one. So men, listen up. Our skin is approximately 25% thicker than women's, screens, and it usually takes a little bit longer to notice results, but also using the right devices that are actually contoured to you. So guys, listen up, because it is really important that you use the right products for your skin. My favorite part about this mask is that you literally only need it on for 10 minutes a day, and I use it all throughout the day, every single time differently. I'll be watching a movie and have it on, I'll be doing the dishes or cleaning and put it on, or even when I'm working in between meetings. It is painless, super easy, and 10 minutes a day, you can't go wrong. You now have no excuse to be taking care of your skin anymore. Shop my link to get 10% off OmniLocks at checkout. All right, let's see what he's got next.
This is the living room. It literally is my favorite room in the house. We spend a lot of time in this room as a family. When we were designing this house, we wanted it to feel like it felt in 1923. Can we just look at this fireplace? This is 120 years old. I sit here in front of this fire with my wife or with a friend and have a glass of wine, and I just think about all the conversations that were had around this fire over 100 years, and it just fills me with so much joy.
This living room, I think, is absolutely amazing. I also want to add to the fact that he is so charismatic in person. I mean, not literally in person, but the way he just talks about his space, you can tell that this is exactly how he lives and how he wanted the space designed. This isn't like completely staged out of proportion like some Architectural Digest reviews are. So it's really nice to see that this is as genuine as he is as a person. I'm going to start with the views and the windows in this living room that are absolutely stunning. The black mullion frames and then also the timber wood in between create such a level of contrast, but also a beautiful sense of depth along the window walls. There is so many chairs in this living room, as well as sofas and dining tables and side tables and coffee tables. But what's really great is that it is designed so thoughtfully that it doesn't really look like a chair store. This is a problem that a lot of people get with an open concept design. It just feels like you're looking at every possible surface. But the way that they've designed this is they zoned it into different areas. We have our main zone, which is a large kind of volume area for a majority of the seats. And then they have additional seating areas in a radial around it, as well as what looks like a potential sunroom off to the side. Once again, I can appreciate the use of vintage in this space, but I feel like it's almost overboard when it comes to the age of everything that's been included in this space. I get he wants to really feel the vibe of that like 20s Prohibition area. The downside is that everything looks so old and worn out. I would have loved to see a good combination between vintage and some contemporary pieces, like even like some really aged marble, I think would have helped accentuate the overall design instead of just having like wood and leather and leather and more wood. It seems a little bit overwhelming in the overall kind of look and design, so it doesn't feel as cozy as it could, although the atmosphere and ambient style of this is beautiful. The existing cobblestone fireplace is also stunning. This is a prime example of why you do not paint over brick or stone. If you're buying a home with character, especially if you have a fireplace like this, you best believe it better be staying like this, and you need to pay homage to that design. If you're painting it up like all these DIYers are, you are completely ruining the charm and character that comes with buying an old aged home like this.
It's very important for me to say this. There are a lot of artisans and artists that went into the making of our home in this community that we now call home. And some of those people are James Romanchuk and his son, Dave, Jake Saka, who did all of the plumbing. Again, Sean Henderson, our architectural designer, and Dean Warner, who did the electricity, Chris Gregory, who matched all of the walls around here.
I need to give him an absolute enormous shout out to that quick little moment he gave to Architectural Digest. Not only did he give praise and recognition to the designer, but all the trades, the electrician, the plumber, everyone involved in this project must have been unbelievably lengthy. If you are working on a heritage home like this, to upgrade it and bring it up to code, according to any building code and anywhere you live, is so much work. And the fact that he took a moment out of this entire interview to thank not only the teams, but them by name. Like, this is monumental when it comes to giving credit to everyone as part of a team. There are far too many Architectural Digest reviews, HGTV shows that do not give credit to all the behind the scenes team. So this makes me so happy to see that he took a moment just to say thank you to everyone.
This is a painting by a friend of mine, Danny Fox. And you'll see Danny and Wes Lang in a lot of places. They're my best friends, and I'm very fortunate to have a few of their pieces, and they're bangers. This was the main entrance to the house. We decided to close this entrance off to the house and kind of redid all the stone outside so that this is kind of like our personal wing. And it's just one of my favorite rooms in the whole house. It's just a hallway, but what a magnificent hallway it is.
This hallway that they repurposed into like its own wing is really significant. A lot of people don't understand that hallways need to be considered in the overall design within your space. These are, although temporary spaces, they are pass-throughs and portals into the next rooms themselves. So if you do not either give a break or consider the design according to the rest of the space, these hallways can turn into really ungrateful areas that people don't actually enjoy being in. I understand the purpose is to travel from room to room, but hallways need to have a design that incorporates so that everything feels cohesive. I love that he pays homage to a lot of his personal friends that are artists. This is so big and important across every scale, and I really love seeing celebrities that appreciate local artists and artists that are friends. I really like the design of that window that created almost a stopping point in this hallway. They have seating because it's wide enough, but they also have this bench just underneath the window with these dimly lit wall sconces. This is a fantastic way of really upping the design in a hallway space because it gives it not only characteristics, but a purpose. Let's see what room we have next.
You'll see a lot of art in this home. That's what I do. That's what I'm passionate about. It's about collecting things and finding things that are meaningful to me. I spend a lot of time in antique shops and flea markets and things of that nature. But I've been collecting art for about 28 years, and having our son exposed to art is one of the most important gifts I think that we've been able to give him. What I also really love about this room is the view. We live in the Hudson Valley, so it's constantly filled with deer or wild turkey or black bears or me walking naked, talking to myself, studying lines.
He seems like such a real person, just the way that he talks about everything. I also love that he has this really incredible approach when it comes to artwork in his space. He's been collecting it for almost 30 years, like he said. But the fact that each of them has a significant meaning and they're displayed throughout the home, this is huge when it comes to not only character development, but like the appreciation of arts as a child as they grow up, seeing and getting to experience all the artwork around the home. Artwork also makes a room so much more personable and interesting. So if you have more than one piece of artwork, by all means, put as much up in your home. Art is one of those very special things that does not need to match the rest of your home. You can have something so far out there because it has meaning to you and you enjoy it. That's the purpose of that piece. You don't have to have art that is collected and cohesive with a particular design style. There are no rules when it comes to art. The dining room overall, in my opinion, feels quite off because there is so much volume and space around the dining table that's centered in the middle. It doesn't feel balanced being in the middle of the room. I would have actually moved it closer to the window. I think having like a banquette bench against that window and having everything pushed to the one side would have allowed the area to be zoned and feel cozy looking out the window. And then you can have like other seating areas if you want to have like a breakfast area to the side, or if you wanted to have additional seats at the back that you could still look out the windows. I feel like that would have served the room's purpose a little bit more. It just feels really out of proportion. Like when you go back and you look at it, there's such a gap between the window and the dining table, as well as the light fixture. I feel like that could have had a little bit better scale, and in terms of length overall, having it centered and having a small one like that just doesn't feel right. I know he talks about getting a lot of vintage pieces. In my opinion, I would have loved to see 2 larger vintage chairs at each end of that dining table to really create a statement, but also balance the heaviness of the black mullions around the window in the middle.
This is where the cooking happens. And guess what? I do none of it. Zero. My wife, she does all of it. She's an incredible cook. I'm very lucky to have a partner who enjoys cooking as much as my wife does. These are just like old plates that we kind of found. And this little piece of art right up here was the first piece of art that I bought from a friend of mine. That one and this one almost 28 years ago. But these are just things that we've kind of collected. These are ants. There's some ants right here. Again, they're just fans of my focaccia. This is the table that we had at our house in Los Angeles, and it was too long for here, so we just cut it down. There was a lot of thought and a lot of effort that kind of went into all of this. The other thing that I'm really passionate about is lighting. I just have been collecting light fixtures for a really long time. This is one of them we got from a friend of ours. Not a lot of variety. The thing that my family can't stand is how low I usually keep the lights. And they're constantly like, you see everything is on a dimmer. See that? Everything's on a dimmer.
He is too real for that comment. Having dimmers everywhere in the house, honestly, should be the standard. There are no lights that are on full blast. And the fact that he had to make a joke about that his family's like, oh, they need everything like on high and he has everything dim and lit. Like, he is a vibe, the house is a vibe, and the dim lights match exactly what he wants to achieve. I also love that he made a joke about ants crawling in the kitchen because that is way too real. You're living out in the middle of nowhere, and especially in an old home, rodents, animals, insects, they eventually get in the house. The fact that he's like, oh look, there's an ant. He isn't one of those like prissy celebrities that's like just ignoring it completely, or he gets like angry. He's like, oh no, we need to do a new cut. He's like, no, there's an ant. It happens. It's part of the house. The kitchen is quite small, which I don't mind. It matches the home itself. The one thing that really bothers me is so many different surface areas, and so many different levels of where the kitchen is laid out. We have the one corner that he's standing in that has its own island that looks like it's a new one. Then we have a giant butcher block island that's probably for prep that's off to the side. Then we have another L shape that has the sink and the fridge on it. And then we also have a breakfast area. There's just so many different levels of going up and down. It makes the space feel very chaotic. And with the kitchen being an already busy and over robust space where everything kind of gets dropped and laid out, I can imagine that this is probably a very busy and overwhelming kitchen, like 99% of the time. But in the same breath, he also says he doesn't cook. This is his wife's job. This is how he does it. So he's like, whatever, if that's what she wanted, that's what she gets. I can appreciate that it feels very lived in, but once again, since we were going for that Prohibition 20s style, everything is rustic. The other challenge that I see personally is this breakfast area. He has one of these old pews in the corner, which is fine. He also mentioned that he cut down the dining table that they had existing to fit in the space, but that looks so fucking uncomfortable. Pardon my French. I would not be sitting on those pews or that chair around that dining table because my ass is going to go numb in like 2 minutes of sitting on just straight barn board. It does have what looks like a velvet cushion on the other side, but it is so aged and worn down that I can imagine that it's not giving much support. I feel in this instance, having like a leather bolster on the back as well on the bottom would have assisted in the appeal of this design. It would have added that extra layer of comfort with function as well.
This is the TV room. Movies are a really big part of my son and my wife's life. So we spend a lot of time in this room watching movies, especially when it gets dark early and there's snow outside.
That was a very quick tour of the TV room. I had to pull up photos to see exactly what it looked like. I also love when rich people have enough money to have a TV room that's separate from the living room. I know I have never been a huge fan of TVs. I think that they look unbelievably ugly. I mean, there are some that look nice, like the frame TV. You can hide them and they look nice in a space, but overall it's like one big giant black box that's the first thing you see that really takes away from the rest of the design and the appeal. So I like that they actually did this layout. When you first walk in, you see the window wall as well as the full sofa, and the TV is on the back. So that's not the first thing you see when you walk into a space, which I'm going to give them like 10 points for. A lot of people don't consider that when they're designing their living space, is that if you are going to have a TV, think of either one, a clever way to hide it, or two, make sure it's not the first thing that you see when you walk into the space. The mirror instead of an art piece between those two mirrors on the back wall, I think is a great consideration as well. Even though he does say he has a lot of art in the space, that mirror will help amplify the rest of the room. And, if you really want to spy on your kids or watch the TV while you're in the other room, you're getting that perfect reflection, which may not be something they considered, but it's a bonus point. The colors are really great in this space as well. I love that they have a colored sofa that's aged and a really nice, beautiful aged Persian rug that really amplifies that like warm, cozy style that contrasts more of the white finish on the walls as well as the barnwood on the floor.
This is my office, and it's kind of a big, wide open space. This is a desk that I've had for about 10 years. It's just really personal to me with, again, a bunch of things that I've collected over the years. I have stuff everywhere. This is a board where I keep all kind of my inspiration and things that, I've done kind of over the years and things that really matter to me, and a lot of pictures of my son. This is my personal space, and this room is, it's me. And then this was the caretaker's bedroom, but we turned this into a bathroom. You know, the thing about this house, when we bought it, it hadn't been touched in 100 years. Every system in the house was on the precipice of failing. I mean, over the course of that year, we learned so much about this house, the history of this place, but we learned so much about ourselves and what it takes to bring a house back to life.
Patience is what I'm going to throw in there. He says it's like, oh, we learned a lot about ourselves. If you are working on a heritage or an old home like this and you're redoing everything, the level of patience and consideration that you need to make it work is like beyond. That is not me. That will never be me, but I can appreciate the people that have that level of patience. The office is actually really cute. I think it also really defines how he is as a person. I think it's funny that he's like, oh, look at all these like things I've collected over the years. I feel like Architectural Digest goes through every single drawer and cabinet in your house and is like, oh, we want this out, we want this out, we want you to talk about this. They totally invade your space, throw a bunch of random stuff out, and they just hope that you speak about it while you're doing the tour. The bathroom off of that as well, I think is really nice. I like that it has a different stylistic choice. Once again, I'm not a huge fan of that board and batten and shiplap, but they did make it feel very moody. It does have that really masculine, strong approach to it with the darker board and batten on the bottom and then white on the ceiling and the side of the wall. I think that's a really nice touch. It's a very classic looking bathroom of this time.
So this is our bedroom. The guy who built the house, this was his bedroom. I mean, the way that he designed this house is extraordinary in the sense that the living room faces south, and so it gets sun all day long, whereas this room in particular faces east. So you wake up in the morning and then you see the sunrise.
This bedroom is absolutely massive, and I almost feel like I wouldn't know what to do in it because there's just so much aerial space around the bed. The consideration that I absolutely love is that this house was so pre-planned out in terms of the actual structure and the layout geographically according to the sun's actual inherent location of this space. The fact that you get the sunrise coming in the bedrooms, the living room faces south, and I'm sure that kitchen is probably like southwest, so you get like the sunset in the evening is so important. And if you are building a new home, I mean, maybe not if you live in suburbia because you don't get to control your geographical location of how the structure is being built. But if you have a plot of land like this, watch the sun rise and set. This is a study that we did way back in school that when we were designing homes, if we had the opportunity to really approach it from an architectural standpoint of where the sun rises and sets, it will make the biggest impact out of any design. It is the top tier when it comes to sun coming in and flooding the space that really allows you to enhance the overall design. I would have loved to see a bigger headboard just to balance out the side of the rooms because it is so big. We have that heavy fireplace of black on one side and the headboard is quite small and dainty on the other. Even having like not a super big one, but like a much larger scaled headboard, maybe in like the vintage leather in here or like the velvet to really help amplify the light that comes in so it's more reflective, I think would have been a really great approach.
AD, thank you so much for letting us share our home with you. We really appreciate you coming out. It's a place that's very special to us, and we hope you enjoy your time. Be careful driving home.
This guy is such a cool dude. Like, I feel like I've probably seen more movies with him that just haven't been like at the forefront, but I need to watch more of them because he is just such a genuine character, not only in his like just presence, but his appreciation for the arts and the crafts of his home, right down to the lighting, as well as all the artisans that helped build and renovate this space. The biggest key takeaway from this entire tour is that if you are buying a period home or a heritage home or a well-aged home, keep it in that style. There is a reason why those houses have a sense of timelessness to them, is because you stick to a very easy design approach of the style that always will match the style of the home. If you were to put something in super contemporary, besides like, a few things to manage it together, it's gonna look so out of place, and they did this home so much justice. Like I said before, this is not my personal style, but I really think they did such a great job I'm gonna give it an 8 out of 10 because I can appreciate it from a design perspective and knowing how much work went into it in terms of the renovation and all the behind the scenes. If you really like this house, you need to watch my review on Jennifer Garner that I did previously because both of them give off the same genuine energy of how much love they have for their home. That's all for today. Thank you so much for watching. You can always follow me on Instagram and TikTok at Mr. Phoenix Gray for all my daily tips and tricks. And if you're ever second guessing yourself, just ask, what would Design Daddy do? Boom.